A red line has just been crossed in the world's most critical waterway. This is not another skirmish. This is not a proxy attack. This is a direct, state-sanctioned act of aggression, a strategic masterstroke executed in plain sight, and a message written in steel and fire to Washington and the entire Western world. Moments ago, under the watchful gaze of a Russian Federation Navy destroyer, elite commandos of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps seized a European-flagged supertanker, the MV Stentorian, in the Strait of Hormuz. This is the moment the shadow war between the U.S. and Iran bursts into the light. But this time, Iran is not alone. A new, formidable axis has just made its move on the global chessboard, and the United States may have just been put in checkmate. This is not just about one ship. This is about the future of the global order. Welcome to Global Crisis Radar, your definitive source for up-to-the-minute analysis of the U.S.-Iran conflict. What we are witnessing today is a paradigm shift, a meticulously planned escalation designed to paralyze American power and rewrite the rules of maritime security. We're breaking down the operation, the geostrategic implications of the Russo-Iranian military pact, and the catastrophic dilemma now facing the White House. First, the tactical reality. The Strait of Hormuz. It is the jugular vein of the global economy. Over 20% of the world's total oil consumption passes through this narrow choke point every single day. For decades, the unwritten rule, enforced by the overwhelming power of the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet, was that this passage remains open. That rule has just been shattered. The target was the MV Stentorian, a Greek-flagged vessel carrying 2 million barrels of Saudi crude, destined for Japan, a key American ally. At approximately 0500 hours Zulu time, as the Stentorian entered the narrowest part of the strait, it was approached by multiple IRGC high-speed Bogomar-class patrol boats. They swarmed the tanker, a classic IRGC tactic, creating confusion and cutting off any potential escape maneuvers. Simultaneously, an IRGC-operated MiL-Mi-17 helicopter, a ghost in the pre-dawn light, appeared overhead. It didn't fire warning shots. It didn't issue new orders over the radio. Within seconds, a team of black-clad, heavily armed commandos from the IRGC's elite SEPA Navy Special Force, or SNSF, began fast-roping directly onto the deck of the Stentorian. The crew of the Stentorian, comprised of Filipino and Eastern European nationals, were taken completely by surprise. According to initial, unconfirmed reports from maritime security agencies, the entire takeover of the bridge and engine room was completed in under 10 minutes. It was a textbook Special Forces operation, swift, precise, and brutally efficient. The vessel's transponder was then deactivated, and it was forcibly diverted from its course, steered towards the Iranian port of Bandar Abbas. This, in itself, is a grave escalation. But it is not the headline. The headline, the detail that changes the entire strategic calculus, was lurking less than 2 nautical miles away. The Admiral Grigorovich, a modern, heavily armed guided missile frigate of the Russian Federation Navy's Black Sea Fleet. The Grigorovich did not participate in the seizure. It didn't fire a shot. It didn't even launch its helicopter. It simply had to be there. Its presence was a silent, unambiguous declaration. It acted as a strategic overwatch, a shield. Its advanced radar and electronic warfare suites would have been painting every U.S. and allied asset in the region, while its formidable arsenal of anti-ship and anti-air missiles served as the ultimate deterrent. Think of the calculus for the U.S. commander on the scene. A U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, likely the USS McFall, which was known to be on patrol nearby, would have been faced with an impossible choice. To intervene and protect the Stentorians would mean engaging the Iranian commandos, but doing so, under the shadow of a fully armed Russian warship, risks an unpredictable escalation. Would the Admiral Grigorovich fire back in defense of its Iranian partners? Even a warning shot from the American vessel could be misinterpreted. An IRGC fast boat exploding near a Russian frigate could trigger a chain reaction that leads to a direct military exchange between the United States and the Russian Federation. In that moment, the commander of the USS McFall was not just facing the IRGC, he was facing the Kremlin. The risk was too high. The Pentagon blinked, and Tehran, with Moscow's backing, called their bluff. This brings us to the core of today's crisis, the axis of steel. This is not a partnership of convenience. This is the culmination of years of deepening military, economic, and strategic alignment between two nations united by their opposition to the United States. For Moscow, this alliance is a critical component of its global strategy to challenge American dominance and forge a multipolar world. Russia provides Iran with advanced military technology, potentially including the Su-35 fighter jet, and crucial diplomatic top cover at the United Nations Security Council, where it can veto any U.S.-led resolution for sanctions or condemnation. In return, Iran provides Russia with combat-proven, cost-effective military hardware, like the Shahed drones, and, most importantly, a partner willing to actively disrupt U.S. interests in a vital region, forcing Washington to divert resources and attention away from other theaters like Eastern Europe and the Pacific. Today's seizure was a live-fire demonstration of this alliance. It was a message co-signed by Tehran and Moscow. The message is simple. American hegemony in the Persian Gulf is over. The era of unilateral U.S. enforcement of maritime law is finished. From now on, there are two sheriffs in town. So what can Washington do? The strategic paralysis is palpable. Let's analyze the White House's nightmare options menu. Option 1. Direct military intervention. This would involve U.S. naval assets attempting to retake the Stentorian. This is now extraordinarily dangerous. The IRGC will have already fortified the vessel and mined the waters around Bandar Abbas. Any attempt to board would result in a bloody firefight, live-streamed to the world, and the question of the Russian warship remains. Escalating to a point where U.S. and Russian forces are shooting at each other is a scenario no sane planner in the Pentagon wants to contemplate. Option 2. A broader retaliatory strike. The U.S. could strike IRGC naval bases or command and control centers inside Iran. This would be a clear act of war. Iran would retaliate by launching a massive barrage of ballistic missiles and drones at U.S. bases across the Middle East, in Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, and at the oil infrastructure of U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia. The entire region would erupt in flames, and global oil prices would not just spike, they would teleport to unimaginable highs. Option 3. The diplomatic route. This is the most likely path, and also the one that signals a strategic defeat. The U.S. will condemn the action. The G7 will issue a strongly worded statement. They will attempt a resolution at the UN Security Council, which Russia will promptly and gleefully veto. Washington will be left negotiating from a position of weakness, either directly or through intermediaries like Oman or Qatar, for the release of the ship and crew. And what will be Iran's price? It will be steep. Tehran will likely demand the release of billions of dollars in frozen assets, the lifting of specific sanctions, or even a public guarantee from the U.S. to halt its own seizures of Iranian oil tankers carrying sanctioned crude. In essence, Iran has taken a multi-billion-dollar hostage, the ship, its crew, and the stability of the global oil market, to force concessions from its primary adversary. Moscow's role was to ensure Washington couldn't kick down the door to free the hostage. It is a classic, brilliantly executed geopolitical trap. The economic fallout is already beginning. As news broke, Brent crude futures jumped over 10% in a matter of minutes. Trading floors from Tokyo to New York are in a state of controlled panic. This isn't just a supply disruption. It's an injection of pure, unadulterated risk into the heart of the global energy market. The cost of ensuring a vessel to transit the Strait of Hormuz will now go parabolic. Shipping companies will face a choice: pay the astronomical war risk premiums, or take the long, expensive route around Africa, adding weeks and millions of dollars to the cost of every voyage. Either way, the price of gasoline, heating oil, and countless consumer goods is about to rise for everyone, everywhere. This is how a regional crisis in the Gulf directly impacts your wallet in Ohio, or Manchester, or Seoul. Beyond the immediate economic shock, consider the damage to American credibility. For 50 years, nations like Japan, South Korea, and the European Union have outsourced their energy security to the U.S. Navy. They pay for this security by aligning with Washington on major geopolitical issues. Today, they watch the U.S. stand by, helpless, as their energy lifeline was choked by Iran, with Russia's blessing. How will Riyadh and Abu Dhabi react? The Saudis and the Emiratis have been hedging their bets for years, normalizing relations with Iran, and strengthening ties with both Russia and China. This event will accelerate that trend. They see an America that is unable or unwilling to guarantee security. They will conclude that their survival depends on accommodating Tehran and its powerful new friends, not on relying on an increasingly unreliable Washington. The tectonic plates of Middle Eastern alliances are shifting beneath our feet. So we are left with the chilling endgame. The MV Stentorian is now anchored in an Iranian port. Its crew are hostages. The global economy is being held ransom. The U.S. military is in a state of strategic check. Iran has demonstrated a bold new capability, not just to disrupt, but to control key choke points, with the explicit backing of another great power. Tehran has calculated that the Biden administration, wary of a new Middle Eastern war and distracted by Ukraine and tensions with China, does not have the political will for a major military confrontation. They have wagered that the fear of a global economic meltdown will force the West to the negotiating table. With the Admiral Grigorovich at their side, they stack the deck to ensure their wager pays off. The world now holds its breath, waiting for Washington's response. Every option is bad. Every move carries the risk of a catastrophic escalation. This is more than a crisis. It is a turning point. A clear and undeniable signal that the unipolar moment is over. The Axis of Steel has made its move, seizing not just a tanker, but the geopolitical initiative itself. The board is set. The pieces are in motion, and the opening move was a checkmate. The coming hours and days will be critical. The decisions made in Washington, Tehran, and Moscow will shape the landscape of global security for years to come. We will be tracking every development, every statement, and every military maneuver right here. The old rules no longer apply, and a new, more dangerous era has begun. To ensure you don't miss a single update in this rapidly evolving global standoff, subscribe to Global Crisis Radar and activate the notification bell. The world is on a knife's edge, and we are your eyes and ears on the ground. Your watch begins now.